Hi everybody, welcome back. We are on lesson 9, so second to last lesson. We're going to do our final lesson on this text today, and then tomorrow we're going to move on and do something a little bit different. So today we're going to be focusing on our writing rather than our reading. We did lots of work on our reading yesterday. So we're going to be thinking about our punctuating dialogue or our direct speech, so the words that the characters say in a text. We're going to be making sure we get all the punctuation of that right. We're going to try and make sure in the piece of writing that we're going to do that we balance describing things happening, the action, and the dialogue, so that we haven't got a long conversation with nothing really happening. And we're going to use our shared text, the Explorer, as the stimulus to do our writing. So we're going to use the ideas from the Explorer to help us think of some ideas for our writing. So, things you're going to need today. You're going to make sure you need a pen or a pencil to do your writing, a different colour for your editing as usual, and your line paper or your English book. Press pause if you haven't got it, but hopefully you've got all those things ready by now. Okay, so we're going to have a quick reminder of our speech before we do our first activity today, because our first activity is all about spotting the errors in some punctuation of dialogue. So let's just have a quick reminder. So we've got our 66 and our 99 around the things that the characters are saying. Okay, so those inverted commas or speech marks around what the character is saying. We often have a reported clause, so a line, a part of the sentence that explains who it is that's actually talking. We make sure we have a pause, that might be a comma or a question mark or a exclamation mark before our speech marks. And we make sure that we start with a capital letter for our dialogue if it's at the beginning of a sentence. And finally, we use the idea of new line, new speakers. Every time a new character talks, even if we haven't finished that line, we go down to the next line and start. So we're going to test out how good are you at doing these things. I'm going to show you an example of a sentence. You're going to copy that sentence into your book, and then you're going to edit it for me. So you're going to need your normal coloured pen and a editing colour, whichever colour you've chosen to do your editing. So the first one says, "Pick me up, Lila," he said. So I want you to copy that into your book, okay? Press pause and then edit it. There should be some things wrong in that sentence, and I want you to put them right for me. Okay, so press pause and off you go. Right, have you managed the first one? Shall we have a look? I'm going to move my camera slightly so that we can have a look at the flip chart. And you can see on my flip chart, I have got the sentence, "Pick me up, Lila," he said. So did you find the errors in this sentence? So let's have a look and see what we've got. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so we have got, "Pick me up, Lila," he said. And at the beginning, we've got a 66, so that's no problem. We've got a capital letter, so that's all good. "Pick me up, Lila." And we've got our closed speech marks. We've got a pause here, but I think that's a problem because we haven't finished our sentence. So we're going to need to cross out that full stop. And what's it going to be? I think it needs to be a comma, doesn't it? So we're going to put our comma in there. And then let's have another check. 66, "Pick me up, Lila," comma, "he said," and that's the end of the sentence. So I need a full stop there. So there was a full stop where it should have been a comma, and then we needed to add in a full stop at the end. Did you manage to get those? Right, should we try the next one? Let me share my screen again with you. Same thing, copy it into your book, and then let's see if you can get the next one. "What is it?" asked Max. Okay, so write that one in your book, press pause while you do it, correct it for me, and then come back and see if you were right with those corrections. Okay, so our next one was, "What is it?" So let's move it down. Here's our next example. "What is it?" asked Max. Okay, that was our question. Oh, and it was a question. That's a good point. We haven't got a question mark in. We'll have to have a look for that in a second, but let's start from the beginning. Right, first of all, have we got a 66? No, we haven't. That's got to go in. We've got our capital letter. "What is it?" I don't think that comma's right. That's a question. It needs to be a question mark in there. We've got our 99 and we've got asked Max. So that one looks okay. Right, want to try another one? I think we can manage another one, can't we? Here we go. Let's have a look at the one on the screen. Same again. Copy it into your book and then see if you can get it right. Here we go. Let's make it play, said Max. Let's make it play, said Max. Off you go. Right, hopefully you've managed that one. Let's move down. Here we go. Let's make it play, said Max. Have we got a 66 at the beginning? Yes, we have. Then we've got let's play. Oh, that's not a capital letter. Let's put that in. That should be a capital letter. Let's make it play. We've got our pause, but we haven't got our speech marks at the end. So we need our 99 speech marks at the end, said Max. Did you manage to get that one? If you didn't, just correct the bits you didn't do now. So it's right in your book, okay? So use another colour. So you might need a third colour of pen and correct that one. And then we're going to go on to the final one. So here's the final one. Let's have a look on the screen. Here it comes. Here we go. You can't get your own way just by crying, said Con, her face tight. Yes, I can, said Max. Right, have a go at that. Okay, so we need to correct any mistakes and then come back and we'll have a look at what you've done. Off you go. Okay, let's have a look at our final one. Here it is, hidden underneath here. So let me move my board back so you can see it properly. Let's have a look. So you can't get your own way, said Con, her face tight. Yes, I can, said Max. So let's have a look. Have we got a 66 at the beginning? Yes, we have. Then we've got a capital letter. You can't get your own way just by crying, exclamation mark, said Con. So here's our reported clause, but we haven't got to close the speech marks here, so we need our 99 here. You can't get your own way just by crying, said Con, her face tight. Oh, I've got some more speech marks here. I don't know why I need those. Let's get rid of those. Don't need those. Then we've got our 66. Yes, I can. 99, said Max. So we had some missing speech marks up here and a set of speech marks here that we didn't need because it was round, said Con, her face tight, which was the reported clause, and we don't need speech marks around that bit. So hopefully you've managed to do all 4 of those. Well done. Oh, we nearly missed one. What's the one last one that's in here? You can't get your own way just by crying, said Con, her face tight. This here should be a new line, shouldn't it? Because this bit is said by Max, so this should come underneath here. You can't get your own way just by crying, exclamation mark, said Con, her face tight. Full stop, new line. Yes, I can, said Max. So that's what that should be. Nearly missed one. That would have been no good, would it? Right, let's get on now then. Okay, I hope you did all right with that. So now we're going to move on to the main part of our lesson today. So the main part of our lesson today is a writing activity, okay? And we're going to be using an extract from the book, and we're going to imagine that we're the writer of that book and we're going to continue doing that piece of writing. So this is the end of the extract we've been looking at together, okay? So let's just have a quick read of that to remind ourselves what was happening. So she stumbled as she landed on the ground and half fell. So Lila, you remember, was coming out of the tree, wasn't she? But made sure to keep the arm with the animal high up above her head. So she was keeping it high above her head, if you remember, so it didn't get hurt. We talked about that yesterday. Max ran to her. What is it? Let me see. So he's pretty excited about this. It's a sloth, said Lila. Her voice was hushed with awe. A baby sloth. Fred stepped closer. It was one of the most extraordinary things he had ever seen. It was very ugly and very beautiful, both at once. Its fur still had the fluffiness of babyhood. Let's make it play, said Max. He grabbed at Lila's arm. So that's the point where we're going to stop the story. And I want to know, what do you think happened next? And hopefully overnight you had a bit of a chance to think about this, because we talked about it briefly at the end of yesterday's lesson, didn't we? So, does Lila let Max play with the sloth? I want you to decide. Are you going to is Lila going to let Max play with that sloth or not? It doesn't matter what you decide, okay, as long as you can think of reasons why, so that they can have a conversation about it. So why is Lila going to let Max play with it, or why is she not going to let Max play with that? Okay, so they're the decisions that you need to make. You might have had a chance to act out that conversation yesterday, hopefully, with one of your friends or with your family. If not, doesn't matter. You can press pause and have a go at doing that now. How does the animal react? So how does the sloth react? Does he like being touched? Or does he curl up in a ball and try and move away? Or does he snuggle up to them because he really enjoys it? And what happens next? So what I want you to do is very briefly, just in your book as a little plan, I want you to think about how you might answer those questions. So it's going to be really brief. It's just going to be some really simple notes. So I'm going to show you how I would do it first, okay? And we're going to have some really brief notes on it. And then we're going to have a go at actually writing that conversation. But before we do, we're just going to write some brief notes. So let's have a think about what we might write. Okay, so we just need some really brief notes about what you've decided. So this is all I did, okay? So I've made some really brief notes. Lila and Max do play with the sloth. I decided, yep, they're going to do that. Okay, it's fine. You can decide either way. It's not a right or wrong. It's whatever you decide, okay? Then they're going to talk about what they could do. So they're not sure what to do with the sloth to start off with. So I'm going to have a bit of a conversation between my characters where they decide what to do. Then they're going to decide to see if it's hungry. And they're going to try out some different foods. And then the sloth is scared because it's a timid creature. I've got a little noun phrase in there, and it becomes a little braver. So just a really brief idea of what's going to happen next. So this one is he going to play or is he not going to play? Okay, then what are they going to talk about? What do they decide to do? And how does the sloth react? So in really brief, it doesn't have to be in sentences. Okay, just some really brief notes of what is going to happen in your part of the story. So if you can write down now your plan, okay, in your book, just really briefly on one side of the page, okay? Is Lila and Max going to play with that sloth, or what else are they going to do with it? They might do something entirely different. You might decide they do something completely different. And that's absolutely fine because it's your piece of writing. So go and have a go at that now. Press pause and think about what you're going to do and write that plan for me. Off you go. Right, hopefully you've got your plan. Remember, it doesn't matter what you've decided. Whatever you've decided is fine as long as you've thought about the conversation that Lila and Max are going to have and you've decided what it is they're actually going to do. Now we need to think about how we're going to put this together. So let's have a look at the things that we're going to need to make sure we've got in our piece of writing. So we're going to have a conversation between Lila and Max, and that's going to be punctuated correctly. We're going to really think about that as we're going along. And once you've got to the end of your piece of writing, have a good look back through like we've done with those examples we've just used and think, have I got this punctuation of speech correct? I want some descriptions of the sloth's reactions. He's not going to talk to them because he's a sloth, but what's he going to do? Is he going to curl up in a tiny little ball? Or is he going to be really brave and really wide-eyed and open and say, yeah, I want to play with you? So have a think about that. I want you to think about how much dialogue there is, because sometimes we can get a bit over the top with dialogue, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a minute. So we want a bit of a balance in our piece of writing. And finally, if you can put some expanded noun phrases in there, I will be so happy. I think there would be a good chance of having a go at that, okay? So that's what you're going to do today. We're just going to have a brief look at how to keep a balance in the text, and then you're going to go get started with your writing. So I've just taken a little bit from the story that we are reading. So we can see here, she stumbled as she landed on the ground. That's an action, that's something that's happening, okay? And then we've got she half fell, but made sure to keep her arm. A bit more action, okay? Then we go into Max ran to her, another bit of action. Okay, and then we've got some dialogue. What is it? Let me see. It's a sloth, said Lila. Her voice was hushed with awe. There's a bit of description in there. And then we've got a bit more conversation, a baby sloth. And then Fred stepped closer, another bit of action. It was one of the most extraordinary things he'd ever seen, a description. It was very ugly and very beautiful. More description. And then right at the end, we go back to talking again. So there's a bit more direct speech and then a little bit more action. So can you see what I mean? I want a bit of a balance between all three of those things. I just don't want, he said that, then she said this, and he said that, then she said this, because that's the kind of writing we get when you're much lower down the schooling key stage 1. Now we're year 4, we've got to try and keep that balance. So we're going to have some description with our expanded noun phrases. We're going to have some dialogue, but we're also going to have some action in there as well. So press pause and off you go. I'm looking forward to hearing what you managed to do. Well done. Okay, how did you get on? Let's have a final check of our piece of writing before we finish for today. So go back and have a look at the conversation now. Search for all the dialogue you've got and make sure that you use your other colour pen to check it. So have you got your 66s and your 99s in the right places? Have you got pauses before those speech marks? Have you started a new line for a new speaker? And have you got a description of the sloth's reaction? Okay, if you have, that was brilliant. Have you kept that balance in there? And have you got some expanded noun phrases? So you're going to use your marking pen, check the conversation and the dialogue, underline your expanded noun phrase if you've managed some, and then just double check for me that you've got a balance between those three things, and then you're finished for the day. Let's have a look and see what we're doing tomorrow. So press pause and do your editing first, then we're going to have a little look at tomorrow. Here we go. This is just a sneaky peek of what actually happened in the story, because I thought some of you might like to know. It doesn't matter if your piece of writing is completely different. In fact, it's wonderful if it is. But this is what actually happened in the text. No! Lila seized his wrist, cradling the cloth against her chest. Don't! You'll hurt it! The brother and sister glared at each other. No, I won't. I'll be soft. Maxie, you mustn't. It's terrified. It doesn't have a mother to protect it. See, it's shaking. But I love it. Max looked dangerously close to tears. But it doesn't need you to love it to death. It needs us to be slow, whispered Lila. Come on, Maxie. Let's take it back to the camp. You can bring the pineapple. Back in the clearing, Lila made a bed of soft grass for the sloth. And I wonder what happened next. If you'd like to know, try and get hold of a copy of the Explorer and see if you can find out what happened next. Well done today. I'm sure your teachers will love reading your extracts of what you decided happened between Lila and Max and the sloth. Well done. Let's have a look at what our final lesson is going to be, shall we? Here we go. So we're going to be looking at a non-fiction text, but it's a non-fiction text which has got beautiful pictures in it, and it's called The Wonder Garden. And this is the blurb on the back of The Wonder Garden. It says, open the gates of the Wonder Garden to explore 5 of Earth's most extraordinary habitats, each filled with incredible creatures and epic scenery. Trek through the Amazon forest, travel to the Chuan Desert, dive in the Great Barrier Reef, delve deep into the Black Forest and stand on the roof of the world, the Himalayan mountains, to see nature at its wildest. So this is a book that takes you from one place to the other. It's an information book. It's a non-fiction book. So it's got facts in there, but it's written as if you're really in these places. And it's described as breathtaking engraved illustrations bring to life Earth's spectacular wonder garden in this stunning book, which takes you on an adventure around the world. A must for all young nature lovers. So we're going to read the sections about the Amazon rainforest tomorrow. We've got some facts, and then we're going to do some writing about some animals. You're going to be able to decide which animals you'd like to write about. So I will see you for our final lesson tomorrow. Well done. You've done a brilliant job today. Super job with your writing. Make sure if you want to, you can carry on that piece of writing. If you're really enjoying that piece of writing, you could use the rest of the day and continue and think of what might happen next. Now you know, you might decide to change yours a little bit, or you might decide that Max and Lila do something completely different. But well done. You've done a super job today, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day.